How do you know how much fat to give to your parrot and what kind of fat? Hey guys, I'm Kaylin, the author of The Parrot Bliss Bond and the new book, Get to Know African Grey and Cape Parrots. You can get those on Amazon. I love helping you increase your blissful bond with your parrot, which often means improving their diet. So we're going to talk about fat today. If you're used to hanging out and you've already subscribed, thank you for doing so. Let's start squawking. Okay, first I'm going to start by telling you I wanted to bring my galah out, but I couldn't catch her. She's still like adjusting and she's not fully tamed. So, however, let's see. If you look carefully, of course, land shark is right there and she's our hawkhead. Right there's one kaik that I can see. They're really, oh, I see. You could see two of them. And one of my Indian ringnecks right there. The second one, where are you? Oh, he's a little further. I think he's out of the scene. And if you look, I think the chair's in the way. One of my African Greys is there and the other one's on a perch behind the camera. All right, let's get started. Number one way that you know how much fat to give to your parrots is by their species. Don't forget, there are 350 to 400 different species of citizens, that means parrots, depending on how they are categorized. That means that, every species really has its own diet. And of course, that's also affected by what's growing, what the season is, how their environment is. Like if their home is being taken away, then they probably have less food. So all of these things affect them, but every species' dietary needs are different. The other thing that we need to consider when we research our species and we learn what kind of fat our species does or doesn't need, because some need like a really low fat diet and basically the fat's already covered in their pellets. Some need seeds and some need nuts. And that's another thing we need to understand. Seeds and nuts are actually different kinds of fat. And, on the one hand, I'm sure that a walnut is a different kind of fat than an almond. But in other words, generally speaking, nuts are one kind of fat and seeds are another kind of fat. So that's important to keep in mind. And then there's really some major differences that we sometimes can look at and talk about between seeds like a sunflower seed and a safflower seed. I don't know exactly, but I've been told that safflower seeds are really high in fat, more so than sunflower seeds. I don't know if that makes sense or not. I always try to do a lot of research. I try to talk to my experts to get reliable information because probably like you, when I look online, I read like totally contradictory things and I'm like left going, nobody knows. I don't know. How am I supposed to know? So the first thing you want to do is look at your species. Generally speaking, I'm going to throw out three categories. One category is going to be your non-fat eaters, which means we don't give them additional seeds, we don't give them additional nuts. Now, side note, that doesn't mean never give them a treat of a nut. When treats are given sparingly, like you're doing training and you're giving a piece of a nut, or you're doing training and you're giving a seed, or when my mom comes over, she goes to Costco and buys walnuts so that when she comes to my house, she gives out nuts. And I'm like, there's nuts here. You can grab nuts. She's like, no, I brought mine. I'm like, whatever. When she gives out a treat once a day, that's fine. But in other words, it's not a part of their diet. It's not in their cage, in their bowl to feed them kind of thing. So our three categories, generally speaking, and I'm just kind of hitting some basics. When we're talking about no additional fat, we're talking Amazons, we're talking Quakers, and there's one more. Who else was it, Land Shark? Yeah, don't eat my chair. Oh my God, you're killing my chair. No, don't kill my chair. Who was the third one? Huh? Look at this plucker. Hey, you're a plucker, don't pluck your feathers. Okay, if I think of the third common species that shouldn't have additional fat, I'll let you know. Number two category, the birds that need seeds. In your quote unquote popular birds, cockatiels, budgies, Conures, those guys do need some seeds. However, the Australian birds, the cockatiels, my new red rumps, the budgies, they're going to, I think, you know, I don't know the Australian landscape. I'm gonna have to do some research. I kind of think they have more access to seeds, or at least grass seeds, meaning seeds that turn into like little grassy things. Sunflower seeds turn into these big monster sunflowers. And if you've never seen one, they can be as tall as me. I don't know if you can tell how tall I am while I sit here, but, and like they're flowers, like the sunflower head can be like bigger than my head. So they can be monster plants, which is really beautiful and really cool. But you get the difference, like the sense that a parakeet seed mix is different than a cockatiel seed mix. I don't know why they named them that way. The parakeet seed mix, which maybe I'll try to get a picture for you, is going to have more millet and more grass seeds. The cockatiel seed mix is going to have other seeds like the safflower seeds and the sunflower seeds I was talking about. Also a black one, I forgot, it's not buckwheat, I forgot what it is. It's this pretty little kind of four-sided triangle, really cool looking seed, but different seeds. So you also want to look, if you have one of these common species, lovebirds, my linneys, a green cheek conure, she's so eating my chair, a crimson bellied. I just had someone offer to sell me half moon conure babies or adults, I don't even know. You know, my dusky conure, I feel like those guys are going to need more than the parakeet seed mix. Now, notice I said I feel. That's not based on really good information. It's based mostly on one of the things that I think is most important, which is observation. I really try to observe my birds, see how they're doing, see what they need. For example, my African gray Zeus, who I was giving extra fat to, I gave him a macaw seed mix. It has sunflower seeds in it. And I noticed that he didn't do well with that. His droppings were getting some green in the water, like a limey or green, and I'm not processing the fat right. At least that's how I read it. I am not an expert on poopology. I've gotten much better at it, but I feel like ultimately I'm at a loss. That's a different topic. So I'm gonna stay on track, but I'm gonna tell you that through my observation, I was like, you know what? I can't give Zeus that fat. I have to give Zeus a different kind of fat. So now my African grays only get nut fat. So number one, know your species and really do a little research, because even all like that umbrella I gave you for like the smaller parrots, they need some additional seed fat, but what kind? You know, look into it, because there's different kinds. The millet or the parakeet mix is lower in fat. Hi, Milo. And you can even go lower and mix it up and give your small birds a mix and give them some, I'm so laughing, menacing bird here. She's like, Milo flew by, so she's like, look at me, I'm opening my, I forget what it's called. I call it a lion's mane or sunflower. Hi, beautiful. Hey, look, do you want this that I was gonna talk about? Pistachio? There you go. That's the right kind of fat for her, and she is annihilating it. It's annihilated. Oh wait, you missed part of it. You want that? There you go. Oh, you missed it again! What was that? Here, have a shell. Have a shell. Okay, so you can mix it up and, for example, give your small parrots, like if you have budgies, something like that, you can give them canary seeds. The canary seeds, I don't know what kind of seed that is exactly, but it is an even lower fat seed. As a matter of fact, a canary expert once told me back when I had a canary, he's like, you're giving parakeet seed mix? Oh, that's too high in fat for a canary. Your canary's a little fat. I'm like, you know what? I'm sticking to citizens. I try to learn as much as I can about parrots, and I have learned to just stay in the citizen family and let other people be experts for other species. So that was number one. Get to know the species so that you understand basically, number one, whether or not they should have fat. And you know, I didn't finish. So those Amazons, those Quakers, no additional fat or very little, just in treats. Your second group is going to be, like I was saying, I'm just restating, your quote-unquote smaller parrots, the Australian small, you know, smaller parrots that are smaller than her, lovebirds, budgies, even some of my smaller conures. The smaller conures, they're going to need some of those seeds too, but find out what kind of seeds are best. And with them, especially the New World parrots, like my conures, they're only going to have access to those seeds seasonally, which means that in like late summer and fall, when there's nothing growing, everyone already ate the seeds or the seeds already grew, they shouldn't have access to seeds. I make an exception for my babies, which is going to be point number 2. So I'll get to that in a second. Your third group, the nut fat eaters, I already gave away my pistachio. Like I said, things like walnuts and my almond here, that's going to be for your larger parrots that eat and require some nut fat. African grays, Cape parrots, land shark here, my hawkhead, my golden conure, she needs that additional fat. To be honest, sometimes one of the things I observe that gives it away is the beak. She has a monster beak, so does my golden conure. My African grays, they have a good sized beak, and it is like a lobster clap when it grabs down. But they're not like as honking huge as hers or my macaws. Macaws, they need that additional nut fat. So there's some example of some parrots off the top of my head that need some of that additional nut fat. So that was number 1, and I gave you examples of the 3 different kinds of fat, generally speaking, and I gave you examples of the 3 categories: parrots that shouldn't have that additional fat, parrots that should have seeds, and parrots that should have nuts. Category number 2 for how to know what kind of fat to give your parrot and how much. Category number 2 is going to be age. My younger conures, I can tell they're thin. I can see, you know, on them that they're thin. And that goes into number 3. I monitor their keel bones. And we're going to have Land Shark show you her keel bone. Come here, sweetie. Since she likes to pluck, it makes it a little easier to see. There's a bone right here, and I can feel her bone. It goes right down the middle. It's from here to here. So if your parrot lets you touch them, you could feel that keel bone. If you cannot feel it, they're probably overweight. If you could really feel it, and if it feels a little like, you know, hopefully it doesn't feel like that. Like here's the keel bone at the top, and it's like a ridge, and then it goes down like an upside down mountain. That means your parrot's too thin. So this is something you can also use to help monitor, and that's number 3. Now, back to age. Just like humans, babies require more fat, I've noticed. They're skinny, they're lanky, and when they get to be adults, it changes, and they can go to a normal diet. Older parrots, I've noticed, they don't need it. You know, they don't need as much fat, and that doesn't mean no fat, it means as much fat. I'm observing, for example, when I give out my half a cup, a quarter cup for each of my African grays, they leave nothing. It's like, it's just dust that they could no longer, I think, get. They really do a good job of eating it, and they eat their fresh vegetables, which I'm really happy about. They eat their pellets, and they look good to me. They, you know, they don't look fat. Unfortunately, Hair is a plucker, my African gray, so I can easily see her keel bone. I don't have to touch it. I can see that she's in good shape. I want them to be robust with that keel bone, but not fat. Like when you touch it or you look at them if they've plucked their feathers, you should be able to see it because it's not hidden in fat. Really, that's what it comes down to. So age really is a part of it, and I'm a little surprised. Like, I guess my African grays, we think Hair is older because she's going blind and she has a harder time. Zeus probably isn't as old. Are you, Zeusy? He's just right there watching me. But you know, so every parrot I watch, I observe as much as I can to see how they're doing, to see how they eat their food. Like when I take one of my parrot out of their cages, I often close the door and lock it so that my other parrots can't go in, because some of my parrots do that and they go in and they steal food. But I want to sort of be able to watch. Is Landshark here eating all of her nuts? Is she eating her pellets? Like, I want to make sure she's doing well. We've had her for almost a year, and when I first got her, she was on a seed-based diet, a terrible diet. And so I've been working on changing her diet. The first thing she did on me was lose weight. And I talked to my vet, and my vet's like, yeah, you know, if you have to go back to the seeds, whatever, just make sure she's eating. And I did. And I just, you know, tipped the scale for the amount of seeds and pellets that she would get. And I found that, you know, right off the bat, she liked walnuts, so I gave her walnuts. So, you know, I monitor and I watched to make sure that she's eating as healthy as possible. She's doing well. I like the way her keel bone looks. I wish she was a little more robust, but it is what it is. And I feel like she's eating healthy, and that's really important to me. So when you look at these three factors, they're going to give you the most indicators, and then the fourth, observation, is the most crucial. But the first one was species, the second one was age, and the third one was their keel bone. And the fourth one is observing them. Because it was, thank goodness I was observing Zeus, a macaw mix, because all macaws need that fat, that extra fat. And I was observing Zeus, and I'm going, this is not the right fat for you. Even though it says macaw on the bag, it's not serving you. So really that piece, that observational piece, my young conures, I'm like, you know, it's summer, you're not supposed to have seeds anymore to supplement your diet. You're eating pellets, you're eating fresh veggies, that's fantastic. And I actually put some extra oil on their veggies because fat is good for them. And you're still so skinny, so skinny. So I am actually supplementing them with some seeds. I don't give it to them every day. I don't give them a ton. I make sure, I observe and I make sure that their pellets are being eaten, kind of thing, before I put more seeds in, to really monitor and watch. The truth is, having a parrot and keeping a healthy parrot has some art to it. You really get to know them. You get to know what foods they like. You get to know what they need, what they don't need, when you really do that fourth one, which is observe them and make sure you're taking the best care of them possible, because that makes for a blissful bond. Thank you for joining me in this video. If you enjoy my videos and you want to connect more, we have a little YouTube community. If you join the YouTube membership, there's information in the description down below. YouTube members get an additional video that is not public. It's just for members every week. Plus, we meet on Discord. We have a private forum. We have a nice little community. It's really awesome. I love it. If you have any questions or comments, please do so down below. And then I will catch you in the next feathered, squawky video.